Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Something Wicked This Way Comes. I am Xanarus, your dungeon master every Thursday for Legion, and today I'm actually Daniel, and I will not be your storyteller today. I will be one of the many people that will be asking questions. I am accompanied, though, by two fine folks. Gentlemen, say
Okay.
hi.
Hello.
Hello, bonjour, salut. Good talk.
I am here with Grim and with Francisco, and today's Something Wicked, or maybe we can call it something jolly, because if you don't
Hey.
know, something wicked is doing something a little bit different. So let us go and maybe not prick our thumbs, maybe shake a bell or two for something jolly this way comes. We have our friend Grim that's going to be talking about some Christmas stories from the front line, particular cases where Christmas helped bring out decency and kindness in people in places where that doesn't happen very often. With that being said, I would like to go and tell you all to take a moment, sit down, relax, get yourself something to drink. For as we all know, as good elves, we all have something warm to go and drink. Hmm.
Mhm.
Trademark not included, unless they would like to go and sponsor us. If you do, give us a call. That would be great. but, mm, but with that being said, oh, and everyone, please take a good visage at my beautiful Christmas tree in the back. I would like us all to just take a moment, breathe in easy, and know that this week, Grim will be taking the reins. Next week will be Francisco. And Francisco, will you be talking about next week?
Next week we'll be talking about something that I feel is a very good thing that happened called the Battle of Cable Street, and well, we'll go into that next week. Why a battle could be a good thing.
It's one of those.
Hmm.
I like it. Also, this is way out there, but someone very close to me got me an early Christmas present, and I wanted to go and show it off. It is a beautiful wristwatch, and there is engraved on the back, "You are enough." And I want you to go and know that if you're watching, I want you to go know I deeply appreciate it. You have made my Christmas so much better, as have all of you, and I'm very thankful that you're all here with me. So, Grip,
Yes.
what are you going to be regaling to us today?
two stories. One actually that happened 5 days before Christmas. The other one that not so much, but still a good for a good cause by unexpected individuals in both cases that not many people. The second one, not many people know about. The first one's a bit more common due to the fact there's a book written about it along with a song.
Hmm.
So now the first one is about Charlie Brown and Franz Stiegler. If I'm mispronouncing it just a tit, carefully. Sorry, Germans not never really took German. Surprise, surprise. Nonetheless, let us begin. The day, December 20th, 1943. Charlie Brown is the pilot of Ye Olde Pub B-17 Flying Fortress, who was part of a group that were going of the Atlantic Wall to, let's see, the target was, oh wait, sorry. He's going up the Atlantic Wall to a target to bomb a land target in Germany.
Hey,
There are,
Jim. Question
yep,
for the viewers that may not know. What exactly was the Atlantic Wall?
sorry. The Atlantic Wall is one of the biggest fortifications in World War II,
Hmm.
where there were Germans had pillboxes and all these fortifications, some landmines, things like that. Also, the best anti-aircraft crews of the war sighted in the sky to prevent daytime bombings such as this one, because daytime bombings were deemed the appropriate, very appropriate. However, they also had a pretty high casualty rate because nighttime bombing raids were
You can see him
not
coming.
very civil,
Yeah.
as it was determined. Let's see, where was I? Oh yes. The first thing that happened is this is in the morning when they go over. They're targeting a factory in Bremen. However, before they get there, they come under flak fire from German ground anti-aircraft placements. The old pub. If someone would be so kind as to bring up the picture, please. So for
Absolutely.
reference,
Our producer giving us all the graphic needs.
just
All
because
of your
I can
graphical
describe it.
needs.
Also, this is a very well-known painting. So for this case,
The Immaculate
the
Concerto.
picture, as you can see, it has a shattered plexiglass nose. There's a gunner there generally, and once that was shattered, that that became null and void. Also, that allowed freezing temperature air to go flying through at several hundred miles per hour, which did which wreaked havoc on the crew. On top of this, the aircraft went up and started attacking them, and let's see, two knocked out two of their engines along with damaging one of the wings. So of the four engines they had, only two were now at full capacity when it came to speed.
Yeesh.
Okay. So we're
Uh,
talking about bad all throughout then.
yes, and they got, as you can see in the picture, this is happens a little bit later on. Well, you'll see what happens as I tell it, I suppose. They do get to their target. They drop their payload without much problems. As they turn around, they s- they manage to keep up with the rest of their group for a while, but then due to their damages, they fall behind. They notice. They look around. There's only one other bomber with them, and that bomber notice there's a fire on board. It dives below the clouds, trying to put the fire out. There's a flash, a bang. The bomber does not return from the clouds. However, a group of German fighters who saw what happened, who were sent up to take them out, did come up, came down from below. They saw in the distance another group of German fighters coming straight at them. Being a lone bomber, pretty badly damaged, several of their guns no longer operational for one reason or another. When the bombers come at, sorry, when the fighters come at them,
Take your
they
time.
head at them straight on. For reference, well, this is something totally different. They go like this to give them the smallest point possible,
Hmm.
because fighters, the best strategy was to go for go for the pilot, because once the pilot was out, the bomber would go crash. It'd be null and void. Let's see. And the first group of fighters, they come. He does that. He gets faces them head on. They're badly surprised. They scatter. His gunners, the remaining gunners, manage to shoot several of them. They shoot. One of them gets a shot off, hits Charlie Brown's, as you remember, the pilot's oxygen tank, and they manage to escape that event. Later on, due to their altitude and the oxygen flowing out of his tank, Charlie Brown ends up blacking out, and when he blacks out, the bomber starts doing a nosedive to the ground.
Hmm.
It's they're not. He's not exactly sure how long after it starts nosediving, but eventually, excuse me, he does regain consciousness and starts pulling up. And in some reports, they say he got close enough where, as he pulled up, the force was able to start knocking shingles off the top of churches
Oh wow.
and damage the top of trees with the force. So, as you can tell, pretty close call because they're not supposed to be down that low. Now, some time passes, and it's badly smoking, shot up as you will, and another German pilot sees them. He's down on the ground refueling. He sees this lone bomber. He gets in his fighter, sets off because he knows if he shoots down this bomber this day, he will get a Knight's Cross.
What is the
Because
Knight's
he's
Cross exactly, Grim?
is a Germ is a German medal for shooting down a certain number of enemy combatants. I don't remember the exact number. I forgot, but it's a medal awarded to show valor and dedication, more or less, and can't show. Don't really want to show it due to World War II as symbology that's not really appropriate anymore. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, Twitch wouldn't like that very much.
I suspected not, but it came before then. That cause co-opted it as they did with several other things. And would you bring the thing back up, please, him?
Yep.
Is it back up? I can't. Sorry, I can't. There we go. As you can tell in this picture, when Franz Stiegler, the pilot of the fighter, he goes up, notices the bomber. He sees what would have been the tail gunner, but one of the rudder's badly shot up. Part of the tail is gone. The tail gunner's no longer there because that area is so badly shot up. He's about to pull the trigger, but hesitates. He thinks something weird is going on, so he
So
goes very close to it. He
I
gets up next to it. He notices there's the only gun that's operational that can see him is the belly gun. So he gets above that. He looks into the bomber, the badly damaged bomber. What does he see? Scared and bloody crew. A scared and bloody crew.
Hey Grim,
Yes,
just to confirm, the small plane is Strigler's.
that's Franz Stiegler's,
Okay.
the German fighter pilot.
Oh, so the large one that's dying and breaking apart.
That's the Flying Fortress
Yep.
for reference.
Oh.
They called it a Flying Fortress because it's supposed to be very sturdy and had guns on the belly, on top, and back, on the sides, and in the front. The ones in the back is disabled due to the cold air freezing the oil. The one on the bottom's only operational. The one in front got shot off. The one up top got shot off. The person got disabled in one manner or another. The
Oh.
accounts of how varies. And so when he sees this, he goes up to them. And Charlie Brown looks to the side, thinks he sees the German fighter pilot. He thinks it's a horrible dream. Closes his eyes, shakes it once, kind of looks back. He notices he's still there, horrified that this is not indeed a nightmare. He he waits. He tries booking it, and the German fighter pilot motions to him to land. Because the German fighter pilot, knowing that how crippled he was, suspected that he would not make it back. Tried making him land in Sweden or a closer nation, because he would rather have people captured than killed in this case. In his own words for reference, in a 2003 interview done by Mitchell Fuller, Franz said, it's hard to describe if you see an airplane so crippled, and for me, it would be like the same as shooting at a parachute. I just couldn't shoot. For reference, it was a it was bad form and just not done. They shoot at parachutes because when you're parachuting, you're defenseless. You don't have anything to fire back, and that is a war crime to shoot at someone or like if you're caught doing that, most they would have you at least discharged, if not for executed in that regard, depending what nation. He motions them to land. He refuses. So instead, he continues going next to them. Charlie Brown just starts heading back over towards the Atlantic Wall. And Franz Stiegler knows that the crews are good enough where if they see him, a fellow German, they're less likely to be shot at, but he still knows there's a chance. But he thought it's better to give it a try to save these people who probably killed many of these countrymen. Because he knew they're part of the bombing group. He didn't care at this point, though. Than to leave them to their fate. Later on, they make it over the Atlantic Wall. He does indeed end up saving them. He peels off when they're over neutral territory or Allied waters. They make it back to base and they land. They're about to be awarded for making it back in such horrible condition, but the brass hear about what happened. No awards, nothing. They brush it under the rug. No one can hear about it because they don't want the idea the enemies will be compassionate and sparing to be used in that, or even reach the ears of Allied soldiers or airmen, because that would give the wrong message during the war. Franz Stiegler, on the other hand, he manages to land too, no problem. He knows though that he cannot tell the story either, because that would be potentially a death twice over. Once, because he could have been shot down, but thankfully he wasn't. But the second one is he was caught, then the German high command would probably have him executed for treason because helping an enemy, even crippled in that regard, is not a good thing. Now, in 1953, the war is over. No one really hears about this. 1953, Franz Stiegler moves to Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada, and he still wonders about what happened to the bomber because he had heard nothing about it since the war. 37 years pass. It's January 18th, 1990. Charlie Brown also was wondering about the pilot, and he happens to receive a letter. He reads it. It says, "Dear Charlie, all these years I wondered what happened to the B-52. Did she make it or not?" It was from Franz Stiegler, and he wanted to meet Charlie Brown in Florida to talk about their experiences in the summer vacation. Charlie Brown was so ecstatic to hear about the person who saved him that he called up the directory assistant for Vancouver, found out the name and number of Franz Stiegler, and called him. Many people remember during the interview they talk about their first reactions. Their reaction is Stiegler saying, "My God, it was you," and he just cries and cries, but tears of joy rather than sadness, because for reference, Franz Stiegler was not the luckiest person during the war. He is in 1940 he lost a brother. In this 20th, 4 days before Christmas, he saved a bomber because he served in the African front, which was a lost front. He lost his brother there. His country lost the war. He fled. Well, he didn't flee, but he left his country. He knew if they ever found out during the war that would be the end of him. They become fast friends though. They go to Florida. One of their companions, one of their friends, doesn't specify whom. The reports vary. They record one of Charlie's friends record the meeting of the two pilots. Then they both talk about in light, cheerful tones their experiences during the war, and then someone asks Franz what he thought about Charlie. Franz sighed, and his square jaw tightened. He began to fight back tears before he says in a heavily accented English, "I love you, Charlie." It was like two brothers, is like two long lost brothers finding each other after almost 50 years apart. And this hit home for Stiegler, as I specified earlier, due to the fact he lost his brother during the war. And for reference, there were 200, the number wise, there are 28,000 pilots who fought for the German Air Force during World War II. Out of those numbers, it is said by some accounts only 1,200 of them survived. So the casualties were quite high. And this was according to Makos. Makos is the co-author of A Higher Calling, which tells the story of Charlie Brown and Franz Stiegler. I've heard many things about it. I wish to read it one day, but I've not had the pleasure yet. Well, back to the pilots, I suppose. They become fast friends, and until their dying days, to their dying year, they meet up often and talk and do fishing and things like that in Florida when they can. However, there's another there's another side of the story as well. It's a bit of an unfortunate one too, because her friend Stiegler, when the story gets out in Canada, some people shunned him as a Nazi for what he did during the war. In Germany, he gets calls calling him a traitor for what he did because he did not do his duty. But friends always took it in stride and just said they would never understand.
Really
And
sad.
let's see. And I will end this actually with an inscription. Well, after they both passed away, someone was going through Charlie's belongings, and he found a book on German fighters from France, Charlie. And it says this: Franz wrote, in 1940, I lost my only brother as a night fighter. On the 20th of December, 4 days before Christmas, I had the chance to save a B-17 from destruction. A plane so badly damaged is a wonder that she was still flying. The pilot, Charlie Brown, is for me as precious as a brother, as my brother was. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie, your brother, Franz. And that is a bit of an abbreviated story of Franz and Charlie Brown. I have one other. Are there any questions you'd like to ask or points of clarification that I might be able to help with?
First off, producer, are you okay?
I'm okay.
Yes. For reference, when I first saw the inscription, I I actually was thinking about asking someone else to read it because I choke. As you can tell, I choke up every time I read it myself.
That was really sad. Oh shit.
But it had a happy ending.
It did. Oh,
Well, would we really go and say it's sad?
you made me cry.
That's okay. And sometimes, and for the viewers that are watching, sometimes that's how that goes. Just because we cry doesn't make something bad. And a little bit of sadness is kind of what the holiday is almost based on.
Indeed. So, would you like any clarification or other questions I might be able to help with in this regard?
I want to say that I didn't realize how I thought when I saw the picture that the bomber was actually the German plane. Like I didn't realize how tiny his plane was, and he's like, "I'm gonna help them."
Oh, it's just by
Oh
comparison.
yeah,
Because
he put up beside them, because if their guns on the side were, because you can't see it because of how badly it shot up.
Uh huh.
But on the side, there's a little door that opens up where they have the twin, two guns twin machine guns to shoot down enemy aircraft. Franz Stiegler did not know how many of these guns were there or how. All he knew was the bomber is damaged. He did not know anything about if the crew was still there, if they were going to shoot him down or anything. He just hesitated with a gut feeling that something was wrong. And when we went up beside them, that's when he noticed the only gun that was operational was a belly gun. So he just managed. He flew above it, so the gunner down below couldn't get him. But he had no idea about either the side nor top guns until they got close enough where they could have easily shot him down.
Oh
And
man.
in some reports, by his own memory, I think he said he got shot down something like 7 times over the war. And one time he got shot down, even got a scar from where a bullet bullet hit his head. I want to say around here.
Oof.
But he survived without any lasting wounds other than the scar.
Oh man.
Yeah, World War II on back pilots, they're friggin' nuts.
So, a little bit of information. So, the Iron Cross was actually given to tank commanders, if they, forgive me, or tank troops in World War II, if they had 50 confirmed kills. And sometimes it was one for just one submarine. But if we're going to go and think about pilots, there's a possibility that the number was 12 to 15.
He's
And then
already an ace, possibly a
Mhm.
double.
And now we could be talking about the Red Baron, which, if we're really going to talk about a little bit of flying, Charlie Brown and his infamous enemy, the Red Baron, that him and Snoopy, that had so
Yes.
much trouble. So, with that just kind of coming in mind, which is one of my more favorite holiday cartoons.
A
But
short story. Go ahead.
no, just kind of throwing it out there. So just saying that I what was that man's actual Manfred von Richthofen? That's a whole lot of name, and I probably they probably only
Yeah,
man.
he did
Oh,
tr- tricks on
Manfred
horse.
Albrecht Freiherr von Richthofen. Well, that's so much name
It's
for a
German.
guy that wasn't even that big. It's
But this was a fantastic story. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I love it.
Oh, did we lose Grim?
No, I'm
Oh,
still here. Sorry, I'm still here. I
So,
just had someone asking me a question. It's on the background.
oh, no worries. So, I was told that you had another story for us.
Yes, actually, a tidbit before then, since this is a relatively short one about the Red Baron. There's one story told about him. He was dog fighting with I believe it was a French. It's either French or Englishman over the German trenches.
An Englishman over French territory.
Was that it?
Hmm.
Okay. Oh, so you know the story.
I do.
I just I only heard it once, and it is said that the Englishman's guns jammed when they're dogfighting, and he noticed that. So when he flew by, he did a flyby, saluted them, and then went back to his trench.
I have one better for you.
Oh,
When the British ace was flying by him, he just waved. And Manfred was so upset that he went behind him. And when he realized, ah, he's asking for a chance, but he kept on going. So it's one of those things. It's there's a lot to it, but um, the oddness of
devil's
war, I
in the
suppose.
detail,
The
yep.
devil's in the detail. But
which I did not have all of.
that's all right. So tell me, so now that we're just taking a moment to kind of go and collect ourselves, Chad, do you have any stories from Christmas that you want to go and share with us? Anything that you think that might be a little, a little fun to go and let us know, and I can actually go and read them out loud when Grim is done with his, and we can go and talk a little bit about what you've been doing for Christmas and what your plans are. But so, Grim, guide
Yes,
us on a story to the front.
yes. This one, it's not exactly Christmas, but within the spirit of Christmas, if you will, I suppose. Eh, And I'm sorry if I mispronounce this name because I'm not very good with Japanese names. I even have it phonetically written out of how I believe it's pronounced
I
based on
butcher
Google and such.
names all the time. Don't even worry
So
about it.
it's Shion Shioni Suga. It's like Shioni Sugara or something like that. For reference, chat, I'm just putting out phonetically, and also I'm just putting it in chat how you actually pronounce it. So if you wish to correct me, feel free. But there you
Fantastic.
go. I'm probably
Shu
never. Yes,
Shune
Shione.
Shune Sugihara.
See, I knew I was gonna get it wrong.
Oh, it's okay.
I expected
I
it.
these are years and years wasted watching anime as a young man.
I did that too. I'm still bad with names.
So it is what it
Well,
is.
this fellow, he was born to a middle class family in Japan in the Gifu. I think it's Gifu. Sorry, Gifu prefecture on the main island of Japan of Honshu. He graduated top at a training center, a well-regarded training center for the experts on the Soviet Union. So that's how he learned Russian. Later on, one of his stations was he became the director of the Japanese affairs when it came in the puppet state that was created by Japan in Manchuria. A few years later, during that time in Manchuria, in 1932, he negotiated the purchase of the North Manchurian Railroad from the Soviet Union. This is all leading up to something. Not now comes the real part. Due to the fact he was fluent in Russian, Imperial Japan selected him to be the Japanese diplomat in Lithuania when the Soviets annexed it in 1940. The Soviets planned to close down the consulate later that year, and they were well aware of this before they did. Some things dawned on him during his stay there, though. He knows that there are lots of refugees that were fleeing east, trying to flee the war-torn Europe, and a lot of these refugees happened to be Jewish individuals because they saw East as more for salvation than West for obvious reasons, and when it came to due to Germany's actions. And some of them started asking him if they could help him if he could help them escape. They brought fake visas in, and he's aware of this, but he decided to help them because there are no instructions from Tokyo telling him that he couldn't. So he started helping them by giving them the first group. He gave the 10-day passes to go Japan, where later on they would either go to the U.S. or Canada in theory. Later on, and he started helping more and more of them.
Hmm.
And this included those not only who had fake passes, but some of them had no passes at all. And they heard what he was doing, so he set out here how to help them. After 1,800 passes were issued, word came from Tokyo. He must be sure. This is the quote. He must make sure that they, the refugees, have finished their procedures for their entry visas, and they also must possess the travel money or the money that they need during their stay in Tokyo. Otherwise, you are not to give them the transit visas. Because reports started coming in that the Jewish individuals among other refugees, were appearing in Tokyo and other areas of Japan with these travel visas to Canada and the US. However, they had no money, nor did they know how to get to their final destinations per se. They just had
Gotcha.
papers saying where they were going. In
Mm.
response, once he received word from Tokyo, he he started to issue visas to those who had not completed everything because he knew the Soviets were going to close them down anyway, so he more or less thought, I have nothing to lose. I'm going to lose my position here. So might as well help while I still can. And that's what he did until the consulate was closed later that year. It is said that his actions saved the lives of thousands of Jewish refugees along with others.
Oh wow.
After after that though, he was recalled to Japan. On the way to Japan, he was detained. It varies between 2 and 3 times, I believe, by the Soviets, but he did make where his family was. He did make it back to Japan though, and he was forced to resign from his position because, however, they said that it was downsizing. He saw it as
Hmm.
he suspected but couldn't prove that it was his punishment for issuing all the unauthorized visas.
Hmm.
After the war,
Wow.
though, he never spoke of any of this because it didn't. He knew it wasn't going to do any good, and why bring it up? He did odd jobs for most of his life, and years later, in the late '60s, his deeds that saved some of those peoples were revealed, though, because a man he saved managed to locate him and thank him. Many years later, in 1985, Israel officially recognized him for his actions and awarded him and for his actions and award they gave him an award ceremony at the Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem, where he's declared righteous among nations, and a tree was planting in his honor there. A year later, he, he died in his hometown. The, and many of his neighbors during this time knew nothing about this. He never spoke of it because he knew there's why bother basically. And so not until his dying days or after the fact was it revealed what he did. And when interviewed, his neighbor said, "I had no idea. He's just some old man who kept to himself. No, it's a very good neighbor. Never really did anything." And that was a brief, but I thought important second story I should tell today. Had the major stories.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all right. And brief stories are just as good
Hmm.
because not every story has to be prolonged, but they have so
Indeed.
much depth to go and know that someone was willing to go put their life on the line for people that could do nothing, could pay him nothing, but out of the decency of his own heart.
Indeed, because he saw what Europe was becoming, well, what was happening.
And decency is one of those strange things. And it's one of those things that I go and I tell people often during the holidays that you'll go and you'll hear a lot of people go and say, "Oh, I hate Christmas. I hate that." There's reasons for that. No one grows up hating anything in particular. But
Yes, oh, sorry.
M,
We have a submission from Dizzy
oh,
Rocks of Star 13.
I'll read that if you don't mind.
Mhm.
So, one of our viewers by Dizzy Rockstar 13. I think my favorite Christmas edition is Toys for Tots and the gift delivery for the VA hospital. My family has always been a military family on my father's side. To partner with Grim Stories today, my great grandfather was deployed to the front lines in France around Christmas time, and there's where my grandfather led a silent night in Germany. According to my dad, his grandfather said it was sobering. One of the reasons that he taught him, his father, and myself how to sing it.
It's so beautiful.
War. War is a difficult thing for all people. And that is not the first time that we've had moments like that. We also have the Christmas Truce that happened, I believe, in
1914.
1914 when the British Expeditionary Force heard German troops in the trenches opposite them sing carols and patriotic songs and saw lanterns and small fir trees along their trenches. Messages began to be shouted between the trenches, and the following day, the British and German soldiers met in no man's land, exchanged gifts, some took photographs, and some even played games of football. They also buried casualties and repaired trenches and dugouts. After Boxing Day, meetings in no man's land dwindled out. It's weird how you can be fighting a man with everything you got, and the very next day, decide, not today. Today's a little different. And for all of you that celebrate different holidays, for all of you that are having these moments at home that you may not make it home for Christmas, we are so very glad that you have made your home here with us, that you've had a moment to sit with us, that you've had a moment to share stories with us. And let it be said of human nature, there will always be wicked things. There will always be wicked people. But oddly enough, there will always be more good. And as long as we can continue to do that, as long as we can continue to weigh that out, we continue the good fight. So, we here on Frankly I Don't Give a Fork ask you to continue to give the good fight. And even though you may be waging a war on your own, you are not always alone.
Mm.
But we'll be here. And feel free to reach out and to say hi. Meet us in our Discord. For those of you who may not have anyone on Christmas and feeling a little lonely, we'll be around. And know that even though something wicked this week comes, we are here to appreciate the holidays with all of you. And we are very thankful for your presence and thankful for your viewership. I hope that you have an amazing weekend. And I hope that this holiday treats you as well as it does all of us. I'm your host, Sanres, and let us all go and prick our thumbs for something wicked this way comes. Have an excellent afternoon, everyone. Be safe and take care. We'll see you soon.